Hey, welcome from Vinyl to Viral. I'm Wes, your co host. I'm a Gen Xer, ultra runner, author, and apparently now a podcast with the world's greatest co host, my daughter.
And I'm Veruca, Gen Z, sarcastic by nature, pop culture fluent, and just here to make sure he doesn't get canceled.
This show is where two generations share their different thoughts on different things, raised on mixtapes on one end and raised on memes by the other. And we just want to kind of talk about some lighthearted subjects for the most part and how the different generations view it.
Yeah. From TikTok trends and nostalgia spirals to internet drama and hot takes no one asked for, we're covering it all.
Yeah, it's smart. It's going to be weird. It's hopefully going to be a lot of fun. That's a big thing we're trying to do. And we'll try not to get in too many arguments, but we do have slightly better microphones if we do.
Yeah, well, emphasis on the slightly for sure.
All right. Our episodes will drop every other week, and we're always taking listener submissions, lessons on how to speak, and questions or anything else you want us to talk about. We're going to call this segment our main segment of the day, and we're going to talk about how the different generations view Stranger Things. And to me, it is the perfect topic to talk about in our first episode because it takes my generation's youth, appropriates it into television for Gen Z with Gen Z actors. So let's get into it a little bit. So what are your first thoughts on Stranger Things, Veruca?
I really like the show. I think season 5 was maybe a little too much for me. I have a hard time just staying on top of like those
Yeah,
super
it got a little
long
drawn out at times, I think.
series that go into like multiple seasons. Like once we're over season 4, it gets a little crazy to me. But I am curious to know, like, do you feel like Stranger Things culturally leans more on the Gen X side or the Gen Z side? I know that Gen Z is kind of like the most popular audience for that show.
So yeah, I mean, obviously the actors and actresses, most of them are Gen Z. You know, the core group is Gen Z, and you do have like one Gen X star, of course, Winona Ryder. So I thought that was cool. I think if anything, it teaches what it was like. If you're watching it from a Gen Z perspective, what I would take away is just like how culturally and how significantly different like my youth was compared to today's. And I know everybody says that, but if you really look at history from like the 50s, 60s, even, and when I talk about that, I'm not talking about civil rights and those type of things, but from the 60s almost to the early 2000s, life and the way we communicated, the way we interacted remained largely unchanged. And then, of course, the advent of the internet and social media, and it radically changed everything. And now everybody's got cell phones. So I thought that was an interesting part that it portrayed. I saw that the writers try to get around this a little bit by using those walkie-talkies. Which we did have walkie-talkies, but I don't think they would have worked the way at least ours never did work the way they did in the show. But I know why the writers did that. It was they were trying to get around some things. But for me, yeah, it was a lot of nostalgia. And as far as the Gen Z thing, I do think, of course, they're playing to an audience. There were some topics covered that are more Gen Z relevant, I think, especially like the sexual orientation of Robin and Will. And one thing I've always pointed out about the series is you had Max and Lucas together, which I think is more of a Gen Z thing. And the reason I say that is because, of course, these things were around when I was a kid, but the way they were portrayed in the series, I don't think really equates to how it would have been back then for good. I mean, it's better, but at the same time, that's kind of one of my complaints. It's a small one about the series. Is like they didn't give us the reality because in reality, the Lucas and Max thing would have been a much bigger deal than it was in the series.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
I know that we had that conversation before about like, were they just trying to keep it lighthearted and then
yeah,
bring it to a Gen Z audience or what? But I was curious, I know you mentioned kind of the nostalgia of the show. Did you have like a favorite piece that they showed or like something that happened, something that they were doing?
man, it brought back a lot of memories and a lot of funny things I kind of forgot about, like the new Coke scene. With Lucas really liking it. Nobody likes New Coke, but that was kind of funny. That's something that kind of forgets. I did see a comment online once. I think it was TikTok or whatever. And somebody was commenting on how season 4 spent so much time at the mall and
Mm.
all this. And like, I'm like, if anything, they did not, spend enough time at the mall
Yeah.
because that was such a hub back in the 80s and 90s for everybody. It was that big of a deal. That's where you found people 90% of the time was at the mall. Once you got past your preteen into your adolescence, of course, everybody was always at the mall. So in that part, I'm like, they kind of got that right. Of course, the roller skating, everybody loves roller skating. I was a big roller skater, so I really liked that. I liked a lot of the callbacks from some things that happened previously and maybe some of the Easter eggs. I really enjoyed some of the albums. I think my favorite, you'd ask me my favorite, I'm going on a tangent, but my favorite thing, for those that don't, I guess you wouldn't know, I actually grew up in Hawkins, Indiana. No, seriously, I did grow up in a small town in Indiana, much like Hawkins. At about that same time, I would have been about Holly's age. And the Tiffany, when they played the Tiffany, I think we're alone now. That was just awesome. There was, I wouldn't say I forgot about it, but when it played, I was just like, wow, that's something that like really, really kind of sparks it for me. I would like to see some new kids on the block in the series. I don't think they used them, but yeah. What were some things that maybe you saw in it that you really wonder if this is how things really were?
Yeah, I think just to kind of start like with the show going into it, I thought it was so funny because, we as like Gen Zers, I think talk about all the time, like with our parents, it's like you never imagine them actually being kids. It's just like you only see
Hmm.
them as adults,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yep.
there's kind of this joke of like, what were our parents as kids? I just imagine like my adult dad riding bikes through the neighborhood kind
Yeah.
of thing, which is so funny. It's funny to get kind of more of that perspective, but it's still hard to, like, really picture it, especially since they did bring that show more to the Gen Z audience, I think. But, yeah, I did like because I know that you always mention, like, the mall being such a big hub too, of course.
Hmm.
And so I did like that they had that in season 4 and seeing that be brought to life in a show is really cool.
Another interesting comment I saw on social media that I mean, it had to be a Gen Z person or somebody younger or such. An alpha, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But they talked a lot about like, this is unreal. These kids were like nowhere knew where they were. They were riding their bikes at night. Like, but I'm here to tell you that was kind of the point because that's kind of how it was. I mean, seriously, I got literally kicked out of the house, like in the summer on the weekends, a lot of times. Like, don't come back in the house. And you just go roam. I lived more rural when I was younger. So then it was just running in the woods and all that stuff and shooting each other with BB guns. But again, very much was a generation people where, like, I guess some people would just say it harbors on neglect from the parents of the way things went down and happened. Joyce in that show was very atypical of maybe like most parents, I guess
Mm.
baby boomers or the silent generation that were parents to us, Gen Xers, because most of them just like, yeah, go do whatever. I don't care. Don't die, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and, speaking of Joyce, what did you how did you feel about, like, Winona being this Gen X star and just kind of, like, bringing all of these Gen Z actors up in the show, like, that she's kind of their
I
leading
thought
Gen
that was a
X.
I thought that was a very cool idea what they did there. Had it been like cast back during those days, she could have played 11, right? Or Nancy maybe. I think she's a little bit older, so maybe Nancy. But yeah, so I thought that was cool. I do wonder if that was purposeful. What I
Yeah.
mean? If that was purposeful that they brought somebody actually from that generation and somebody that was such a cult hero from that generation, right? And yeah, and I like that. I think I told you too. I saw that there was a little Easter egg in reference to Heathers, which those of you who don't know was a movie made in the 90s. You should check it out. It's her and, what's my man's name? Christian Slater. It is wild. It's crazy, but it's a lot of fun. I know you've seen it, Veruca.
Yeah, I love that movie, it's great.
Um, but yeah, so I thought that was really cool. I do wonder if that was purposeful, like they really wanted Winona Ryder to do that. So yeah, that's cool. I guess, but here's a question. I guess we wouldn't really call like Natalia Dyer and Charlie Heaton and them really Gen Z, would we? They're a bit older.
I don't know. I think they would kinda just border on millennial, Gen Z,
Gen Z,
depending on
yeah.
their age, but
Yeah.
they might be older Gen Z still. They
Yeah, I think
definitely feel pretty Gen Z to me.
yeah, they definitely do that. I'll give them that. That's like a lot about myself too. I'm what a lot of people call a Zennial. Or
Mm.
I'm part of the Star Wars generation, the subset of Gen X, because I was born in 77. They consider anybody born like 77 to like 85, I think it is. If you were born while the original trilogy of Star Wars, of course, was in theaters, it's a whole different kind of subset
Mm.
idea. And I think that really applies because Gen X goes all the way back to 65. And some of those folks, I would look at them and consider them boomers. So yeah, I'm on the younger end of Gen X, and I think I do things a little bit more millennial-ish than
Mhm.
most, but yeah. So, was there any songs, any music? I know, luckily for you, you grew up with me, so you got to hear a lot of music. But was there any songs, any music that you especially heard maybe for the first time or listened to for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, the one that really jumps out, of course, is Kate Bush. I don't think I had ever really heard any Kate Bush before the Stranger Things show, and just getting introduced to her music, like, I love it now. I think it's awesome. Like, she just has such a whimsical and, like, literature-based vibe to her music that's really cool. And I think it, like, worked so great for the show, of course, too. I think that was my favorite, and then, like, I wanna say it was season 5 or something, like, I think it was season 5 where they played that Pixies song,
Oh yeah,
Tears.
yeah.
That was the only song I think they played in the whole show, though, that was like, "Oh, this feels like my dad's music." Like, it felt like for the most part in the show, they were, like, taking it way back. Of course, like, you have, like, Mr. Sandman plays or
Yeah.
some of those really old.
Well, and even like the Clash, I came out in the 70s. I guess it would have been around then, but I guess I wasn't cool enough to be listening to the Clash yet. And a lot of that comes down to rights. One big point of topic on Stranger Things was they were the first ones to ever get like Prince's estate to give up rights and let him use some music. That's why it was a big deal when they used, what was it, When Doves Cry and Purple Rain.
Mhm,
That was really cool. I love Prince is like one of the most talented folks of his generation
mhm,
and gone way too soon. So that was really neat. The Kate Bush, I probably sure I heard that song before, but again, I think that was more of on the older end of Gen X.
yeah,
So like I didn't really, of course I listened to the Pixies. So the show I think what wraps up in 89.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, 89. So I was still young. Like I said, I was like Holly's age then. So for me, the next couple years would be where things would really kind of take off for me
Mm,
as far as music. And we'll get into that in a little bit in our next segment because there was a huge album that Brooke is going to talk about that really changed the whole landscape of music completely. But yeah, so for me, but I enjoy a lot of those songs, I listen to now, right? I
mm,
remember though when when Doves Cry and when Purple Rain came out. I do remember that vaguely. And, I definitely remember Tiffany, like we just talked about, right? Oh, I know another one that was big that I definitely knew about was Master Puppets. How could we forget that?
oh,
Yeah.
Eddie
Yeah.
character. Oh, this
One of
one
the
is
most
see.
iconic scenes in the whole movie or whole series was Eddie playing Master Puppets.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I really liked that a lot. I would love to see maybe, like I said, Where Was My New Kids? Or even Guns N' Roses because that was right in their kind of time frame. Mm.
Yeah.
To maybe a little more hair metal, which was kind of a big deal then, and some of the pop. They got the Tiffany. They could have used maybe some Debbie Gibson, Electric Youth. And again, it's a rights thing. It's hard to say because one thing
Mm.
they didn't have that you cannot overstate how big it was Michael Jackson, of course.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it felt like overall they were kind of lacking in the soundtrack department of, like, really tying together.
There was definitely some good songs, but if you're really trying to do a piece like that, we've had this discussion before. My book, go read it, Tumbling Dice on Amazon. The way I think about things when I write is very kind of movie scene-ish. I see a scene in my mind, and in it, I hear a certain track playing, right? And
Mhm.
that's just kind of the way I think about things. It's a little weird, but and in my book, I use, songs and song titles for every chapter, and I'd use other music, of course, within it, just kind of to weave that in there. So in that part, I do like what they did. I just think that they could have weaved some other things in there. Like even in my book, um, I weaved in some songs that probably, well, I know aren't my favorites, right? And people are like, well, why did you use this? I'm like, because at that time, in that time period, that song was literally everywhere,
Mm.
whether you liked it or not. Like, I used, what was it, Ricky Martin, right?
Mhm.
Ricky Martin's not really my thing for sure, but like, it can't be overstated how prominent that song was at that time when I used it in the book. So I would like to see that. Yeah. And again, it comes down to, musical rights and who wants what, allows what into their series. Maybe the Michael Jackson estate is like, no, we aren't. You aren't doing that, or it costs too much, right? There's a cost to
Mhm.
everything. But getting Prince was definitely cool in the end.
Yeah, it was cool. I definitely
So
think they did a better job in season 5, and then that season, I don't remember if it was, like, 2 or 3 or what, with Eddie. Those were, like, the 2 seasons, I think, that were maybe the
yeah.
best.
Yeah, I mean everybody's gonna remember at least two things, I think. One is Eddie and the Master of Puppets, and then of course running up that hill.
Yeah.
Because most of us were even like tired of it, like Lucas said.
Yeah.
Um I guess my thing with the running up that hill, I always question in my back of my mind is like, I don't know that that would be Max's song. Always bothered me
Yeah. That's true, yeah. It's hard to say.
because Max was a skater, man, and and like, and she came from California, and like, that's been, she might have been more into like Metallica actually, or something like that, thrash music of the '80s or early '80s hardcore, like punk bands and stuff. So yeah, that always kind of irritated me. I won't say irritated me, but like it was just something I always constantly thought about. Like, why is her song running up that hill? I just didn't think it fit the person.
Yeah, I'd
That's
agree.
all. Well, I like the series. I know a lot of people are mad at how it ended. We've talked about this offline. I think one thing I'll say, even though we both sit here and we talk about or season 5, right? And we're like, at times you're just like, can we be done? Like, dude, I like to equate it to, when Harry Potter came out, people always talked about, or the movies, that they weren't like the book, right? And they didn't provide these details and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I feel like if there was a book series on Stranger Things, that's what they did. They gave us the unabridged version of Stranger Things.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. But, yeah, I think I was, maybe, like, lucky a little bit just because I didn't really watch season 5 until all of it was released, so I wasn't really, like, waiting like some other people were, and I kinda got to watch it all in virtually one sitting, so it didn't feel too dragged out, but, yeah, there were definitely some, laggy parts, but I do always like I'm the type of person watching a show where, like, I like drama, the backstory. Maybe it is because I'm a reader,
Hmm.
more than I like the action, so season 5 really wasn't that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a writer, and so when I look at like Stranger Things, it was a good show, and there's also like a thing to look at as far as a writing and a storytelling perspective.
Mhm.
And so, like, it was interesting. I do think for me, I watched this season 5 as it came out. So when it came out, 3 episodes, I stayed up till 2 in the morning, watch those 3 episodes and repeat through the holidays. But there was some times where I'm just like, dude, we're kind of rehashing things. We're kind of doing things we don't need to do. We're going off here. We're going off there. But I do think it's the unabridged version. The only thing that my biggest critique of the whole series would be, what really hurts me about the whole series from a writing perspective is some of the character development was uneven. The Duffer Brothers, let me say this, clear as can be, are geniuses. And the show overall, as far as its writing and everything, it's hard to touch. And that's kind of like what I see as kind of the unfortunate problem, because you had some characters that were so well developed, so well done. You had like, oh my God, I can't, Steve's character, right? And Dustin's character, Robin's character were written so perfectly with their growth and who
Mhm.
they become. And then then there's a few others that they just like poor Mike, man. Like they did Finn Wolfhard dirty because his character, I don't think changed at all. He was always just a simp for
Yeah.
11. That was his sole character trait. So, but it bugged me mostly because I saw how well they could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I don't know, like sometimes Steve, I love his character development, but at the same time, I wonder with some of those characters, especially Robin, if the character development came about and was so grand because they suddenly realized that that wasn't the character that they wanted in their show,
Yeah.
or if they were like truly trying to grow that character, right?
We
Especially
all
as
know that, yeah, with Steve was one they didn't want in the show
Mhm.
permanently. He was
Mhm.
supposed to die in season 3, I think it was, wasn't it?
I don't even.
Yeah, they came out and said that, but then they liked, what's my man's name? Joe Keery. They liked him so much, they were like, oh, we can't get rid of him. And then they go on to make him one of the best characters in the whole series, which is
Mhm.
crazy. But do we get into the big topic or just let it go?
What's the big topic?
Like one of the big things about Stranger Things.
I don't.
Actually, I think we're going to talk about just a little bit because I think this will be a good thing to talk about being from a Gen X perspective and a
Yeah.
Gen Z perspective.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the big thing, which is Will's coming out. I'll give my piece, and then Bruca could tell me I'm wrong. A lot of folks didn't like it, and I don't believe it was on a homophobic thing because I generally think one of the best scenes in the whole series was when Robin came out to Steve and just the way it was done. Now, some people will point out that yeah, it was easier to watch a woman do that than a guy, right? And there's
Mhm.
probably some truth to that. So I'll give them that. But yeah, for me, it was the wrong time and the wrong way because I've said this before from a writing perspective. It's much like I talked about Mike. Mike's sole character trait in that whole damn series was he loved Elle. They rarely let him do anything else of significance other than, and until the very end, same thing with Jonathan. His sole character trait was Nancy, right? And until end of season 5, then he kind of does some stuff. Mike, and I don't like when folks where characters are used and their sole character trait is like who they love or their sexual orientation, because I think it does a disservice to the character, right? And like Robin, yeah, she had Vicky, and then I can't remember the girl's name, her Tammy, in the Tammy moment, but her character as a whole was way more than that, right? She did way more than that, and I just felt like I thought it was great when Will unlocked his power from seeing his mom and his friends, and the first time he faced up with Vecna, but before they got into the fight, I mean, we all knew that Will was gay, right? We all knew that from like season 2 or 3, I can't remember. So it wasn't a big shock, but yeah, that was, I mean, my wife Elise was like, she kept telling me, they're going to do it, they're going to do it, they're going to do it. And so, like, then they made like his secret superpower, which it makes him too one dimensional for me, but what can I say? So that's the old Gen X take. I won't even get into how the scene would have really went in real life.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
in the time period that is.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that goes back to what I was saying of, like, Stranger Things, right? We're bringing all this nostalgia from Gen X and the '80s and everything, but at the same time, they were very much bringing it for a Gen Z audience, and I think
Mm-hmm.
one thing that's big about Gen Z is that we're very, like, protective of that class of people, really, and so I think that that was one thing that the Duffer Brothers maybe did on purpose, and same thing like what you said with Lucas and Max of, like, I just don't think they really wanted to, like, go into that topic and make it hard to watch in that way,
Mm-hmm.
because there were already, like, struggles that they were portraying in that show in different ways, and
Yeah.
so I think that was just kind of their, like, "Let's bring the '80s back, but without all of the."
Some would call that whitewashing it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, though, to be fair, I will give him this credit in the Max and Lucas. You've said, and a couple other people said that Billy's approach was because he was racist, and that was the point of his approach.
Yeah, I know that we talked about that before of, like, Billy, I do think they tried to kind of portray that ethos in a way that was like, "Okay, the people that get it, you know, we
Mm-hmm.
don't have to,
Yeah.
like, outright go there." And
Mm-hmm.
then it's still kind of like an audience that doesn't need to know about that stuff just yet, like, talking about a younger audience really, maybe even Gen
Yeah.
Alpha kids that have watched the show, they don't really need to know about that just yet, and they can enjoy the show as it is
Yeah.
with getting into
I
it.
mean, and to be fair, like I was going to say before I got on to Billy, was as a generation, Gen X, we were not homophobic or racist.
Right.
But what we weren't, I will say, what we weren't was not anti homophobic and anti racist. So the kids themselves, I don't think it would have been an issue with that kind of stuff because Gen Xers were known for not caring. And that was simply some of those things we just didn't care about. But yeah, some of the parents and stuff, yeah, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Sometimes I think I don't know the right answer. It was their series. It was well done.
Right.
And I don't know if how many social issues they wanted to tackle or
Yeah,
how much of history they wanted to truly portray.
right, right. I think it just yeah, overall, it was just that wasn't what they were trying to do with the show.
In the end, I liked the ending. I thought it was cool because as a writer, I like the idea of like is literally open ended in a
Mhm.
lot of ways. It's you can look at a lot of different things, and I think one of the big points of the whole series was and I think this is extremely important, is they left the series the way it was because they were trying to make a point, right? That there's some things that are unknown and unknowable in life,
Mhm,
right? Any major scandal, like you ever notice that every year Hawkins started out perfect again,
mhm,
right? And nobody talked about what happened the previous year. Like they were just
right,
ignoring it like it never happened. That's what conspiracy gate theory actually is if you look it up. Is how do people
mhm,
conform to different things when they know the truth, but it's easier to look past the truth and conform rather than be different. And I thought the show was great at that because it did. Like we will never know who killed John F. Kennedy, right? So there's some things in life that just you're not going to know and you're not going to know the truth. It's up to you to kind of think about things. A lot of people talk about how these days I think it's a big thing that Gen X says that people aren't, what do you guys always say, aren't media literate or something about people can't have lost the ability to read and understand things themselves.
oh, yeah, for sure.
So I think that's why you see a lot of blowback on the ending is because it's giving the watcher the opportunity to kind of think about in their own story. Because I
Mhm,
feel like, and I truly believe the Duffer Brothers wanted to leave it in a place where you were meant to feel unsettled
mhm,
and you were meant to be alone with these thoughts. Is Eleven alive? Is she not? Did this? What happened to the government? And they want you to feel that way. And I think that was purposeful just to kind of like, with any of these big conspiracies, that's how it goes, rather
mhm.
than wrap everything up in a neat bow for you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think there are gonna be people that watch the last season or have watched the last season that are just, like, generally optimistic people that are going to still take the last season that way, be like, "Yeah, it was perfect ending, 11 went to Iceland and
Yeah.
whatever."
Yeah. And Beckner's gone forever. Right?
Yeah. Everybody
And
graduated.
yep, everybody graduated and everything was perfect after that. And I
Yeah.
mean, but that's something they showed us over. They really kind of trained their audience throughout the series, if you think about it. They showed us that over and over because, like I was saying, at the end of every season, we would go back to Hawkins and everything's new day. Everything's great. Okay, I think we've covered that enough.
Okay.
We could do like 4 hours talking about Stranger Things,
Right.
but that's okay. We don't need to do anymore. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do a segment called the crossover, and this is where we're gonna take turns either viewing a film from the other's generation or listening to an album from the other's generation, and then giving thoughts and feelings with it. I do feel a little bit. Brooke has got it a little bit easier because she's heard and watched most of these Gen X things. So it'll be a learning experience for me, definitely. And so we're going to let Veruca start off with an iconic album. It's one that changed the landscape of music as we know it at that time. And for those of us who lived through it, again, it's one of those things, and I cannot overstate how different everything was when this album came and how quick it went and just
Mm,
everything was just. And so I wanted to say this before too is that my album I'm going to discuss, and no offense to the artist, it's not that kind of groundbreaking generational artist, but so we're not comparing the albums, okay?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we're not comparing the albums because the albums themselves have no comparison
right.
musically or their impact, right? Maybe we could have thought about that better for next time.
Yeah, and we'll do something of that's comparable, but this is
Yeah, yeah, or
definitely
something on the
not
same
that.
level because you're going to talk about one of the everybody's top 5 albums of all time,
Right.
um, landmark albums. All right, Veruca, tell us about Nevermind by Nirvana.
So, I had the fortunate experience of listening to Nevermind really growing up by Nirvana, of course, and then really re-listening to it this past Friday, yesterday, and just kind of taking a different look at it. I think, it was very passive experience for me listening to it growing up. It's just like, "Oh, it's my dad's music."
Yeah,
I know the song, the melodies and everything, but don't really know what I'm listening to, right?
yeah.
And so Friday listening to it was like, okay, I'm reading through the lyrics, I'm trying to actually understand what's going on here. And it was a fully different experience. Yeah. Never mind, I think is really interesting. And I think what's funny about it is when I was listening to it and thinking about kind of this Gen Z versus Gen X take, one thing I kept on thinking about was that I think Kurt Cobain would have been greatly accepted by
Hmm.
Gen Z.
I do
Um,
too.
yeah. And I think why I think that specifically is because as I was listening to, especially kind of the first half of tracks from the Nevermind album, one theme that he kind of goes into that I really enjoyed was kind of his breaking down of the male ego. I don't know if you
Yeah,
want to
he
talk
was
more
big
about
on
that.
that. He was
Yeah.
a big, I read Kathleen Hanna's book. She was lead singer of Bikini Kill, one of the first big punk feminist movement type artists and stuff. And she was like best friends with him. Side note,
Mhm.
she gave him the name Smells Like Teen Spirit, actually,
Yeah.
first track. And I've read other books at the time too, and everybody always praised him for being, there was a concert where they had a opening female punk band play in Australia, I think it was, and they got booed and all this stuff. And then Nirvana went out after and just like kind of played half-ass and then just stopped it early just because they were like, no, if you're going to boo our opening act or whatever, just
Mhm.
because they're women or whatever, we're not going to do it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and he was well known within the circles to be very anti or very feminist, I guess,
Mhm.
and very um anti-homophobia and that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, go
Mhm.
ahead.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you captured that. His music is Nevermind as an album really is just like very gritty. The melodies are really enjoyable. I think everybody knows like Smells Like Teen Spirit and In Bloom just because they're so like the sound is catchy. His voice is amazing. I know that you could go into detail about that of like how it was defining to the music at the time. But yeah, enjoyable album overall. Some crazy topics to get
hmm
into on in some of those songs, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, so it's cool to go back and listen to all that. Do you have like a favorite track from that album or like something I guess that you think just off of like a song alone from that album that was changing to the genre?
Oh, funny story or funny side note, I'm actually going to see a Nirvana cover band tonight.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, seriously, it smells like Nirvana. They're like a national touring cover Nirvana cover bands. That's
Mm,
kind of a funny story because I actually listened to a little bit of Nirvana this week. Because a lot of Nirvana you don't love it, but at the same time, I've heard all of it so many times that
mhm,
it's just like, I don't know, you need a break. But I would do want to jump on one thing before I talk about that album. Kurt's voice, that was something I don't think it's appreciated enough.
mm,
His vocals, and that's something I want to talk about real quick. I don't, of course, honestly, he's not the best vocalist in the world, but he, like I've always said, he always sang exactly what the song needed. He didn't try to oversing things. He didn't, he always presented exactly what was needed at the time. And I will tell everyone before we go any further, never mind. If you ever want to hear about his voice, listen to the Unplugged album. It was done just a couple months before he took his own life. And it was on MTV Live and it was set up in a funeral style. A lot of people thought that was kind of his plan and everything. But the emotion and some of the songs on that set, I mean, be honest, I almost cry towards the end of the album, just listening to him sing and knowing what the outcome would be and just the emotion into it. My favorite track was Drain You.
yeah.
Growing up, I mean, of course, the first thing I ever heard was, of course, Smells Like Teen Spirit, right? And I remember watching the video too for Smells Like Teen Spirit. I don't know if you've ever seen the video.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Most people have, but they're playing in this gym stadium and it's got the cheerleaders with the anarchy symbol and all that stuff. And the first time you're kind of watching it, you're like, you almost feel like, is this forbidden? Should I be watching this? It's like, just everything. It was just so different. Myself, I'm a self-professed, I love Guns N' Roses, right? But once Nirvana's Nevermind came out, everything changed in the music world. Band like Guns N' Roses were able to stay around in Metallica because they weren't pure hair metal, but like, you had all these Poison Rat, all these kind of Motley Crue, and they still stuck around a little bit, but a lot of these hair metal bands and these pop things were just gone overnight because, of course, the record industry was going out looking for the next Nirvana, right? And then it became Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and then a couple years later, it was Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins, and it just went on from there and there. I can relate it all the way how we got to the pop punk explosion of the 2000s. Nirvana, basically, who's the ones that finally broke the mold and got away from like industry plants or industry produced type artists. So I will tell you this I did read a lot about how Kurt And it's because a lot of times you read his lyrics, if you've read his lyrics, and you're like, what in the world is this dude even talking about right now, right?
Yeah.
But he wrote his songs and his lyrics a lot of times to match a mood. He
They're very,
considered,
like, unfinished thoughts. Like,
yeah,
that's how I see it of, like, he's just kind of getting out, like, a stream of consciousness
hmm
of what he's feeling, for sure.
yeah, yeah. He was known for writing his songs, the chords, the melodies, and the lyrics to match a mood that he was trying to portray or put into the world. A lot of other artists we hear, of course, tell you exactly what's on their mind, right? Or you can listen to the song once and know everything about it, right? That wasn't his style. It wasn't the style of a lot of those bands, though, that came along after him. A little bit more abstract, and the music was meant to sound a certain way because they felt a certain way, right? It meant to feel
Mhm.
like a rage because that's kind of how they were feeling at the time. I do like that you picked out that he was very anti kind of toxic male or male
Yeah.
chauvinistic.
Yeah.
Um, that's definitely something. I mean, I've always known it all along, but to really come out and say it like that as a point of the album or
Mhm.
songs is just really good, I think. But yeah, and it's just so crazy how everything went for them, how quick it was for them. Is just, I haven't seen anything like it. These newer generations. I don't think maybe we will see it again. And I'm sure maybe back when the Beatles came to America was that same thing, or when Elvis came along, it was the same thing. It was something that just changed everything so quick. There was other great albums that came right behind it, right? We were blessed in that age, 91, 92. There was was it six tremendous albums that came out within like 7 months of each other. And
Mm.
that was like, when I'm like 14 or so. And so like, that's how I got so into music, I guess, because you had Nevermind come out, you had 10 come out, or Pearl Jam's 10, you had the two Guns N' Roses come out, and you had the Black Album from Metallica come out, and you had Blood Sugar Sex Magic from the Red Hot Chili Peppers all came out in like a 7 month time frame. And those are seven records that really, a lot of people, that could be like seven of their top 10, you know what I mean? So it was just a different way and how it came about so quick. So I won't say it's all Nirvana, but the point is that was the one that broke the ice and really kind of changed everything.
Yeah.
Um, and Burn Out or Fade Away, it was never got to the point where they put out a crappy album, fortunately or unfortunately, like we see some artists do, right?
Like we're maybe about to talk about?
I think too with Nirvana was how quick it went. It was like a 3, 4 year time period for them. They had made music. The Bleach album was actually their first record. It was made on an independent label, Sub Pop.
Yeah,
And
because
their
Nevermind is number 2, right?
Yes, it is. Nevermind was number two. But yeah, but it was when they signed to a major deal with Geffen
Mhm.
Records. So it was the first wide release. And then, yeah, from like 88 to about 94, it was biggest thing in the world to gone overnight. And it's absolutely nuts to me. And if you
Mhm.
really think back about it, one more point I would say is like, and Dave Grohl was a damn drummer. And you look at everything he's done since then, it's just wild. Wild. Um, Anything else you got on it?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say from a Gen Z perspective, I think that, it's interesting because Nevermind is obviously, like, very, important to, like, the counterculture movement of the time and, like, sort of grunge and all of that music, but what's interesting is it kind of made its comeback, and I know that right
Hmm
now there's, like, this TikTok trend going around of, 2026 is the new 2016, and it reminds me of, kinda like Tumblr days in 2016, people were really trying to bring back grunge. I know that I was, like, a major part of that. I was super into the grunge thing, and everybody
hmm
was wearing the T-shirts, the Nirvana
hmm
T-shirts, and I think we were it's kind of funny to say, but I think we were kind of exactly what he was talking about in Bloom, of, like, we
Yeah.
were listening to this to his music, appreciating his music, but didn't really have any idea he was
Yeah.
talking about.
And Bloom is a great thing you brought up there because, and Bloom was exactly what you said it was.
Yeah.
He's the one who loves all our pretty songs, blah, 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 but he doesn't know what it means. That was actually them taking shots at people.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
One is, like, definitely the most direct. I think in other songs, it kind of finds its way more quietly.
because all these people, of course, loved Nirvana overnight, but they didn't understand what Nirvana was trying to tell them and stuff. or they didn't live by the same values or code. I don't know. I mean, there's 100 different ways to look at it.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're exactly right. That's what In Bloom was all about.
So, Gen Zers go and re-listen to Nevermind.
No, I mean, some of that is though at the time too is just this is the thing that's gone on through history. Well, no, not through history. I will say in the punk and kind of that grunge world, the term sellout, right? Is always bandied about. It's like if somebody can sell 1,000,000 records, then they're a sellout, right? But it's like any other genre, you're applauded for selling 1,000,000 records, right? Like
Mhm.
if your man Luke Combs sells 1,000,000 records, everybody's going to be happy for him. I'm just using a number here. I know it's more, but he sold 1,000,000 records. It's not that way, and so people always kind of want to rain on the parade and like, oh, they sold out. But I think at the same time, though, if you can maybe get a few more people in the circle, and then maybe they start thinking about things a little bit different. I do remember you used to like have your little Doc Martens.
Mhm.
You still do? Yeah, I have a picture on my phone I took before school one year. This is way back.
Is it the one where I'm like, I have like for the audience, I have like a flannel. I'm
Yeah.
wearing like some loose, kind of baggy-ish jeans. I have
Oh, they're ripped.
very red Doc Martens.
And you had a No Doubt t-shirt on.
Yeah, no doubt t-shirt. Mm.
Hey, I'm all for it. I never changed, so I'm in style if y'all bring it back again.
Yeah. Well, 2026 is the new 2016. We'll see what comes back. Just keeps coming back around.
All right, so we're going to hop into our next album, Taylor Swift's latest album, The Life of a Showgirl. Life of a Showgirl was the first Taylor Swift album I didn't listen to straight away. Every other record I think I listened to within the first couple of days of it releasing, if not the first day. And I think mostly because Torture Poets was not it for me. And I could go on a 30-minute rant as to why that is. But I'm going to contain that right now. And I will say to all the audience out there, I know I'm a 48-year-old white male that she's not writing for me. I get it, dude. I completely understand that point of view. And I do take that with a grain of salt, right? So when I listen, but I also think you can look at what's a good record and what's not sometimes. But Tortured Poets wasn't it for me. So I'll just say that. And then when Life of a Showgirl came out, I saw online so quick a lot of Swifties just didn't like it. It was hated almost in some circles. And I'm like, wow, this must really be crazy because I listened to the New Heights podcast with Taylor on it, which I enjoyed a lot. You know, Travis Kelce gets on there and says it's 10 bangers, 11 bangers. So I was kind of hyped, but then everybody's like, oh, no, this ain't it. So I didn't listen to it. I, of course, heard pieces of Fate of Ophelia on like TikTok and social media, of course. And that always stuck with me. I will be honest. Like, I really liked what was going on there. So let me say this overall. I like the album way more than I imagined I would, to be honest.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I listened to it on my run and I liked it way more than I thought I would, to be honest. The Fate of Ophelia, of course, first. That's a great song. Honestly, I would give it 10 out of 10, no notes. Except I do like the Chainsmokers remix version better.
Of course.
Of course, I posted that on my story today. We need more of this in the world. What happened to like
Mhm.
the Chainsmokers and Calvin Harris?
Well,
Because you
I
saw
heard
Calvin Harris and Ellie Goulding are making a new
yeah,
song too.
yeah,
Yeah,
I heard they're
we
about to
need
bring
more
it
of
back.
that in this world right now. Because you know, I always wanted to play in a rock band or a punk band growing up, but I never had musical talent. So my next thing was I always wanted to be a producer or a DJ. But so the Fate of Ophelia, you just I really like the song. I'll be honest, I don't get too much into the lyrics of that song. You know, the vibe, song, 10 to 10, no notes, man. I really love that song. The album on a whole, I liked a lot more than I thought I would. I'm not ready to rank it. I'm putting it above Midnights and Tortured Poets, I know for sure. And that's simply because something me and you've talked about a lot. One of my big problems with Tortured Poets was I felt like she was in this space of writing only for her core fans that understood everything in her life. And it was just so, like almost a diary to them.
Mhm.
This happened, this happened. And I felt like, yeah, there was definitely things you could tell listening to. She was writing about certain people. Travis Kelce a lot, right? But it was different to me, in my opinion. You know, a lot of those songs could be taken outside of their relationship, and somebody could internalize that into their own relationships, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So I thought the songs were catchier. On the downside, I will say the record was overproduced, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I've never been a big overdub of vocals where they layer their vocals on top of their vocals on top of their vocals. Which, fun fact, you talked about Nevermind. The producer, who's a famous producer, produced a lot of these big albums in the 90s, named Butch Vig, who's also the drummer of Garbage, for your trivia folks. He produced Nevermind, and his biggest argument was it took him forever to convince Kurt to use overdub vocals because he
Mm.
didn't want them at all. And he's eventually like convinced him by telling him Paul and John did it in the Beatles. And he's like, well, John Lennon did it, then I can do it, I guess was the thing. But you can, I mean, Nevermind is definitely produced quite a bit. But I just felt like parts of this was way overproduced, too smooth, too like way too many overdub vocals from her. There were like 5 layers of her singing, but it's all her. And I think about how that will translate live, some of the music too, when it's produced like that. One other thing I will say, I've said this before, there's songs where she sounds like Lana Del Rey. You know, Bruca, that I am a big Lana Del Rey fan. And yeah, so I hear that again, the Lana type voice, and that just always kind of bugs me. And then I will say, oh, father figure, right?
Gosh, here we go.
No, this is a funny one. This is a funny one. I don't know if you've ever caught it. There's a Godfather reference in Father
Oh,
Figure.
yeah.
Sleeps with the fishes. I thought that was hilarious, you know? I love
Yeah, I
pointing
mean, I
out
think
Godfather references.
yeah, yeah, I know you love your Godfather references in any piece of media. Gilmore
Yeah.
Girls, of course, they love to do it. Yeah, I think that whole track is just kind of trying to, bring the mafia boss vibe, so, of course, there had to be a Godfather reference in it, so
Yeah, so I really like that song. I mean, I don't know if that was my favorite, but Fate of Ophelia was definitely my favorite by far. I liked the album overall. Like I said, I liked it way more than I thought. It's not like, of course, going to be like my number one record.
yeah.
I have mixed feelings on what was it, the title track or the last track with Sabrina Carpenter.
Oh, yeah, the Life of a Showgirl track. I always forget that that is on the album.
I like the song, but I've seen Taylor Swift do this before, and it drives me crazy. It's one of my knocks on Taylor Swift is she gave Sabrina a feature on that,
Mhm.
but she didn't let her shine.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like whenever Taylor Swift has a feature, I mean, of course, like, there's a notorious one in Midnights when for Snow on the Beach, when she had Lana Del Rey
Yeah,
featured. All anybody could talk about when that song released was that where was Lana? Like, she was
yep,
featured on the song, but you can't hear her. And
yep.
so they actually went back and, like, redid that song
Uh,
to have more of Lana.
there's another one that I talked about before. I think it was one of the Vault tracks, the one with Haley Williams too.
Yeah, yeah.
You have an
And the Speak
amazing,
Now.
yeah, you have an amazing voice like Haley Williams, but you didn't let her do her thing.
Mhm.
Um, I felt that way about the Sabrina Carpenter track. I mean, I'm not a
Yeah.
huge Sabrina Carpenter fan, but that's just why I kind of felt about it. From a Gen X perspective, it's really hard to say how you would feel about it. Because obviously it's not written for us. But I appreciate lots of music and, I appreciate Taylor Swift as an artist. Like I said, of course, Life of a Showgirl is not on par with Nevermind, but maybe she is with Nirvana as far as like the Beatles. Taylor Swift being a generational talent is the best way to put it. But I'm not one of those people that's going to deny, right, Taylor Swift
Mhm.
even because she has created some great songs. Some of the practices I don't like that she does, but we're not going to talk about that. But from an artist perspective, yeah, I mean, I give it up to her. She's done her thing. Sometimes I think with an album like Life of a Showgirl, I think I sometimes expect more out of her. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I
Because
definitely would agree with that.
my opinion is that Taylor Swift is not a normal pop girly like Sabrina Carpenter, Tate McRae,
Mhm.
Addison Rae, whoever all y'all got like going on right now. She's not them. And like she tries to sound like them at times. And it's like, dude, you are so, in my opinion, so much more talented. Like I've told you before, I like it when she just plays the guitar and sings. It's like, why are you doing all this? You don't need all that.
Yeah.
You're too good for that. Like the big Eras tour, I think my thing I told you before was like the Eras tour, just watching clips of it. And I'm like, it's just like, I know fans loved it and it was huge success. So bravo. But like at the same time, I'm like, I just want to show up and see Taylor, play the guitar and sing, right? I don't
Mhm.
need the theatrics, but because I think she's honestly, like I said, I think she's too good for that stuff. But
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think one of the things that kind of holds Taylor up there as, like, a Hall of Fame artist is just her songwriting, right? I think any
Mhm.
Swiftie defends her that way of, like, when guys are like, "Oh, Taylor Swift, like, she doesn't even have that good of a voice," or, like, "Her songs aren't even, like I don't even like her songs, they all sound the same." You hear that a lot too, and it's like, okay, but it's not about either of those things really as much as it is about her writing, her storytelling, and I think that
Mhm.
was what was most disappointing from The Life of a Showgirl is that you kind of lose that. The first 3 tracks were really great, The Fate of Ophelia, Elizabeth Taylor, and then Opalite, of course. Like, I think she did a great job of storytelling in those, and then it kind of falls off from there. Like, Father Figures, it's mid for me, but
Mhm.
then from there, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it was
I think,
too
like, I kind of expected, and this kind of was, I kind of expect this to be the, like, in line with the 1989 and the Lover
Oh, for sure, and I think everybody
albums.
was expecting that too because, of course, before she released the album, everybody knew that Max Martin and Shellback
Yeah.
were coming back, same producers as 1989, of
Mhm.
course, and so we were expecting something like that. We
I just
definitely
feel that,
got the pop album out of it.
yeah. That's what I mean. I think it was just like the next evolution of like 1989 to Lover and then Life of a Showgirl,
Yeah.
which I like 1989, but I don't know that that's what people like. So I guess your generation likes, but to me, there's a Gen X take for you on it. It's like, I don't think that's where she's at her best.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely agree with that. I'm on the side of like, Reputation, Lover, 1989. Those are all my least favorite albums. Older Taylor, and then when she came back to do like Folklore and Evermore,
Hmm.
were those were my albums for sure. I think she has so many different eras of music and styles that she has gone through that
Yeah,
it's kind of
without
very
a doubt.
from Swifty to Swifty for sure.
Yeah.
I think too though, like the life of a showgirl is just so shocking to the Swifties because, of course, Tortured Poets Department
Hmm.
prefaces it, and it's like, that was all about the writing, not really as much about the production, and so
Hmm.
you're thinking that she's going to continue down that route almost, and then it's like complete 180 too.
If you listen to the New Heights podcast, she talked a little bit about that though, because her life changed, right?
Mhm.
Much like when I was writing my novel, my life changed and it became a different book altogether. But like,
Mhm.
Tortured Poets came from one part and Life of a Showgirl came from post eras,
Yeah.
post Travis Kelsey or being with Travis Kelsey. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think, yeah, her thing was to have fun with it. Um, but I just don't think it's fun. I just don't, it's just one of those things. I think I hold her to a high standard and I expect more out of her
Mhm. Yeah.
because I feel like she's capable of a lot more.
Mhm.
Like, of course, my favorite album's
Yeah.
the Red album. And even the Folklore and Evermore, like the song style wasn't maybe the most fun, but just the way it was written was amazing.
Yeah. Those are definitely, like, her strongest storytelling albums for sure.
But yeah, it's so crazy how different she has become, how far she's come if you go back to debut and Speak Now. And I was thinking about that today on the treadmill about like when debut came out, really, and it was huge on the country stations and everything.
Mhm.
And now she's singing about wood. I don't think that song was as bad as everybody made it out to be as far as the reference and everything. It's kind of like along the same lines of when Sabrina Carpenter went off on the media. I think it was when she was like, I've grown up. You guys got to accept that. That's why I can talk about these things. And I think Millie Bobby Brown or Millie Bon Jovi now, Millie Bon Jovi did that too. She's like 21 now. You can't expect me to act a certain way anymore. I'll leave it at that. I thought it was okay. I liked it more than I thought I would, for sure, most definitely. More than Tortured Poets, more than Midnights. I thought Tortured Poets and Midnights were too all about and written in a way that you could not take it out and listen to it and really kind of apply it to like your own life and stuff. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. I
But
think it definitely varies from Swiftie to Swiftie, for sure. I think
sure.
Tortured Poets Department, well, like, for me was like, "Okay, I cannot relate to this," but, like, Midnights, there are definitely some tracks that are the most relatable.
Yes, and then, well, the reference from the one Midnight song, The Ghosts, What song is it on Life of a Showgirl that she kind of references back to that she doesn't? It's a callback to Midnights. I can't think of the song though.
No, I don't know.
Because she says something, she doesn't walk with ghosts anymore.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, I think that, Midnight's, like, all overall, there's a lot of tracks on that song where she treats herself as, like, two-sided of, like, she has
Yeah. But I mean, like, kind of though, and what I was getting at was in Life of a Showgirl, that track, I don't remember which one. She's kind of saying she's not that person anymore, you know, kind of
Yeah,
saying she's happier. She kind of answered that. So I thought that was cool.
yeah.
So let's wrap that up because before you know it, we'll get into this whole Taylor Swift thing, and I got
Mhm.
some thoughts, and
And it'll just never end.
it'll never end. We could talk about that another time. So before we get out of here, we're just going to talk about something funny we've seen on the internet in the last week or so. Mine is right on topic to what we've been talking about with Stranger Things. Have you seen this thing about the lady that got catfished, 40 grand?
No, what?
Okay, so this lady got catfished out of 40 grand because somebody slid into her DM saying he was the actor that played Billy. I don't know the actor's name from Stranger Things. And he was chatting her up and everything, and she went for it and like 40 grand.
No. This is,
And
like, a grown woman, I'm guessing,
oh,
not
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah, 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 yeah,
20-year-old
yeah.
that's like yeah, 'cause
Yeah. And, you know, that part about not getting me canceled, this might, but I hate to say it. They put pictures on everywhere, and I'm like, why? Come on, man. You know that ain't happening, bro. Like, let's get serious. But like this, come on, man. Like, I just don't understand those things. Like, you think that actor hit you out of the blue out of millions of people and slid into your DMs
yeah,
on Instagram,
I don't
and then
know.
you send him like $40,000.
I guess
I
when
just,
the fantasy gets too wild.
yeah, I
Mm,
guess so,
yeah,
man. They
too
could live in
fast.
like a complete different world about it all, but
No.
I don't know. So that's mine. What you got?
Well, I'm curious, like, with that though, is she just like so she posted the video about it being
I
like
don't
this.
know how it got brought to life. I've seen it on several different like things.
I think if that were me, I'd be so embarrassed.
Yeah,
Be like,
right.
why would I have even done? Like, I
Well,
don't,
you know, she went to the police or went to somebody, and then maybe
I
she
don't know.
thought like she could sell the story, is
Yeah,
what I'm guessing, or become TikTok famous or whatever. Yeah, but for me, I think I would be more on your end if I did something like that. Oh, I'm sorry, it was 10,000. Yeah,
yeah. So it's crazy.
yeah, yeah. Oh, and she left her husband accordingly too.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So I don't know, man.
It's even wilder. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Billy slid into her DMs. She's like, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's true. I'm pretty sure it's true, but it's definitely believable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's kind of my funny thing for the week. I mean, there's always something, but I just had to bring that up.
That's crazy. Well, I have two.
Oh,
Well,
I
it's
have
like
another
my
one, but go
uh-oh.
ahead.
Okay. Okay. We'll circle back. My first one is definitely like I keep on mentioning. I feel like it's like an everyday topic of conversation now for me is the 2016 coming back in 2026. I'm
Yeah,
obsessed with it because
I don't
I
really understand all this. Why everybody's obsessed with
really
this? Honestly, yeah, I don't
really
get it.
it's like everybody wants I kind of saw this coming actually because in last year like people were talking about the revival of Tumblr, like we want Tumblr to come back. Do you guys remember? I know that people were posting about like the twee aesthetic, which like Zoe Deschanel is like the darling of. And so I was like, "Oh, when are we gonna come back with Tumblr?" You know, because that was huge for
Yeah.
Gen Z
Mhm.
generation, very, like, culture defining, and so, yeah, I guess, like, 2026 is the year, decade away from 2016. I think that was probably, like, the biggest year for Tumblr. You had, like, so many different things going on for
Mhm.
that, and so it's like peak YouTube too.
Yeah,
Like, when
maybe
YouTube
that's one.
were, like, the most affluent, especially, so I'm into it, though. I'm like,
Okay,
I'm just
do you?
waiting for I'm waiting for them to bring back, like, Tumblr grunge still. Because I keep on seeing the 2016 and they're talking about, like, the YouTubers and more of, like, the beachy aesthetic side, but I need you people to remember the revival of grunge.
Yeah, I have more of a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Give me a quick down and dirty about this flipping Ashley Tisdale and Hillary Duff toxic mom group thing
Oh
going
god.
on.
Oh god. I did see something about it. Man, I guess I need to do a better deep dive. This year, I have been kinda committed to, like, I'm gonna stray away from the celebrity
Yeah.
gossip, and so I try to, like, hit the not interested when I see that stuff come up, when I start to go down the rabbit hole, because I do feel like I, in the past, have wasted my time on stuff like that. I did see a video pop up. Overall, I don't really know. I just saw that
Uh,
there was some beef going
you
on.
were
I know
supposed to
they're
let us be
saying
down and know this kind of thing. Like
I know.
apparently, Ashley Tisdale left a mom group because she
Yeah.
didn't feel like she was included, and she called him toxic. But then
Yes.
Hillary Duff's husband,
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of back and forth of, like, these blogs. I haven't read or
yeah,
looked at anything, but
I didn't know if you
it's
knew anything
crazy
else
to
about.
me. No, I don't know any specifics, but it's crazy to me that, like, these are people that know exactly what it is to be kind of, like, outed in the media and, like,
Yeah,
what it's like to have all your business aired out like that, and so it's kinda shocking to me that they're just, like,
doing it to
wanting to
themselves.
put it all out there instead
Yeah,
of just keeping it in a
because
separate
they
box.
are both. Wait, was did Hillary Duff come from Disney too?
Yes, yeah, Lizzie McGuire.
Oh yeah, that's right. I knew that. Yeah, so it's like, dude, you definitely know. You don't see like Brenda Song and Macaulay Culkin out there calling people out, and
Yeah. Yeah, it's
because
crazy.
is it because it's already can be rough enough for those Disney folks.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe they'll I know that they're kind of like the last few that have, been trying to, like, still stay afloat in today's media, they're both very, like, active on TikTok and everything, so maybe this is just, like
They're still trying to stay relevant.
yeah, they're, like, trying to be like, Mormon wives.
They just can't let go of the days. But doesn't Hillary Duff have like a new album coming? I think I saw,
I have no clue.
or she's doing something. I saw maybe it was a new acting gig. I don't know about Ashley Tisdale.
Yeah.
I assume she still does Candace for Phineas and Ferb,
Yeah,
and that's about it.
I think so.
But yeah, okay, you were useless on that one. So what's your other one?
Oh, my other one was gonna be, have you seen, like, the whole trend going around of, people saying that the boys need to get back in the garage?
Yeah, yeah. That's been going on for a little while. Yeah, right.
Yeah. It hasn't
But
ended, though, I'm like, when is it gonna break?
but the white boys need to get back in their bag. Forget out here trying. What was I saw one time? It's like, why are these white guys out here trying to do this when they should be out there trying to become the next Blink 182
Yeah.
or next Panic at the Disco? You know what I do on TikTok? I am on this side of. I get a lot of that, but most of them are female.
Oh, like, newer artists?
Yeah, that are girl garage. I've seen like 3 or 4 that pop up on my TikTok that are like in a garage playing like punk songs and different stuff like that in their own.
Yeah.
I've only seen like one group of boys. I've seen a couple here and there, I guess, of garage bands on TikTok. But yeah,
Wow, well, share the wealth because I am not getting any of that. I just see the, like, TikToks of people being like, "Bring it back," or whatever. Oh, and then there's the one band, I don't maybe you know what they're called, that, they do, like, the pop punk covers of
yeah,
songs that are coming out. Like, they covered a whole album for Taylor Swift.
yeah. I've seen them a couple times. They did like Fate of Ophelia and
Yeah.
stuff. I watched the Fate of Ophelia one, but again, you've heard all my rules about doing covers. My number one rule is like you gotta make it your own in some way,
Mhm.
but you can't change what the song is.
Yeah.
So some of these covers I hear, like the Fate of Ophelia one, it was like Fate of Ophelia with guitars. It wasn't really that great. Now there's
Yeah.
another one that went around where they're using more of like dirty vocals or screamo type sound, which is really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing. Don't even get me started. We talked about this the other day, the Cars cover
No, here we
and
go.
Rascal Flats. The other rule for covers is, in case anybody wants to know, is you don't, some songs you just don't, okay? Just don't. Just don't.
Mhm.
And it's not even always about being better than original, but just don't. I'm not against covers at all. As a matter of fact, one of my favorites has been which broke this band. When Limp Bizkit covered "Faith" by George Michael, and that's what broke for them on MTV and everything. That's how they became big. They
Really?
did a cover of "Faith" by George Michael, and it's wild, but it's still the same song at the same time. So that's kind of hard to do because I've heard covers where they like covered something, and I'm listening to it. I think on one of the punk those pop albums, and it's like, dude, this is a completely different song. It's like, what are you doing here? But I do say agree with you on the garage because just in light of things that are happening in the world today, that where is that really next generation of punk bands to bring this stuff to the forefront?
There's no, like, counterculture right now for sure
Yeah, yeah.
with everything that's going on, which is shocking, so
It is shocking because a lot of that stuff is always a response to something.
mhm,
The grunge era was a response to the Reagan times and then growing up in a generation where parents didn't care as much and they just had this deep-seated feeling. You know, the pop punk explosion and stuff like that came about more or less because of 9/11.
yeah,
You know, there was bands, of course, Blink and some others that were kind of paving the way, but then, you know, that's what started Gerard Way and My Chemical Romance and,
mhm,
you know, brought a lot of them along because it was a dark period. You got some of those darker bands out of it. But yeah, just going through some of the things they're going through today, it's just like, you know, where's this new generation? I don't think we need more Sabrina Carpenter songs
mhm.
or stuff. Or maybe we do. We just need like I shared on my story, we need more things by the Chainsmokers to make everybody just have a good time.
Yeah, well, I think we already are getting that from Sabrina Carpenter and obviously Taylor Swift's new album and all the Tate McRae.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a whole lot of bands out there that have something to say,
Yeah,
you know? I don't know why that is. I don't I'm sure there is. A big one, man, we could do a whole episode on this, is the change in hip hop from when I grew up, hip hop and rap, to what it is now, you know?
yeah,
There's so few artists in rap that talk about things that are not like money and clothes
yeah,
or whatever, those type of things, like maybe Kendrick Lamar, but yeah, how that total scene just completely morphed.
right, yeah, yeah. I don't know. It feels like today's, like, top musics, even for the musicians, even for the younger generation is, like, they are just, out of touch. Like, they come up and they are almost, like, counterculture at first, especially, like, what comes to mind is, like, Chappell Roan, right? Like, she's
Mhm.
very counterculture at first, but then as you see them go, I guess it's going back to, like, same thing of sell out, but in a
Yeah.
different way.
Well, and a funny way to put it too is, you take Chappell Roan as an example, but she always talks about she loves her mom and dad. That's the problem. We need people that hate their parents to get out here and make music.
Well, maybe if this generation wasn't raised by Gen X parents.
Maybe that's the problem because, like, yeah, that's what usually brings good music is people that hate their parents
Yeah, yeah,
or something happened to them when they're younger. I don't know, but maybe all the helicopter parenting or stuff. I don't know.
yeah,
But
I
Gen
don't
X
know.
wouldn't really helicopter. Some are though, but I know millennials are much more helicopter parents.
Mhm.
So that's a show. You got anything else? Because I think we need to
No,
wrap it up.
I'll have to start brainstorming some things for next week.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get together offline and talk about what we're going to cover next week. And
Mhm.
you need to start getting up to date on your Gen Z news, like this Ashley Tisdale and Hillary
No
Duff.
more clicking not interested on, the
Yeah,
drama, on the
because if I
gossip.
have a question, I need to answer because I'm not going to dig into that. I don't really
Yeah.
care that much about them. So yeah, for all those that stuck around, thank you for listening. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, leave a review, give us your hot takes, what something
Mhm.
you want to discuss, or tell us we suck. I don't care. We'll be able to find us on Instagram. It is Vinyl to Viral on Instagram and From Vinyl to Viral on YouTube.
Okay.
Tell your friends or don't. I don't care. Again, I'm Wes. That's B. This has been Gen X and Gen Z from Vinyl to Viral. Till next time. Peace.
Peace.